What's your number 3, big boy?
Number 3. Number 3 is, it might sound a bit like obvious, but it's got to be Steven Spielberg. Spielberg, for me...
Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws. You know, again, going back to what I was saying about the 70s. In the 70s, you know, Jaws, Close Encounters. You know, I mean, the first film he ever made, it was made for TV, it was. Jewel. Remember Jewel?
To be honest with you, I'm not a big Spielberg fan.
No, well...
I've only recently just watched Jurassic Park, if I'm honest with you.
First time?
Yeah, with Isaac.
Did you like that?
I mean, it's I'm not a fan of dinosaurs. This is my thing.
Okay.
I just, I think if they,
I don't think I ever spoke about dinosaurs until Jurassic Park came out.
if they were cool, they wouldn't have died by a meteor, right?
Well, there's that.
that's my thinking.
I saw Jurassic Park in the cinema and it terrified me. I was only 11 at the time, but I watched it in theatre, Clwyd and Mold, which has got, you know, at the time, I think it still does now, has an amazing screen, and felt very, looking back now, probably because I was small, I felt like very IMAX.
It's a fun film. I'll say that.
I mean, but the dinosaurs in it were terrifying in the scenes that with the velociraptors and things like that. But Spielberg for me, it's what he did in the early 80s and the 70s. It was Jaws, it was Close Encounters. He made Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., and he did make a little like a bit of a spoof like war movie called 1941 with Dan Aykroyd and
no, I've not watched that. No.
John Belushi. It's really good. It's not great. I mean, people were quite shocked by it. I think they were thinking, is this, you know, Spielberg was making hit after hit after hit, and then he came along with this movie, and everyone thought, oh, you know,
different.
well, that's what sort of was to be expected, because eventually he did become that kind of director. Every once in a while, he's come out. I mean, I'm a big fan of War of the Worlds, his version of it. At first, I thought,
that one with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, at first, I really wanted to watch a period drama of War of the Worlds,
Right.
like the book by H.G. Wells, but you know, he went on and did like a modern day version of it, and I didn't like it at the time. I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was, but you know, I wanted the other version of it. But looking back now, I think it's perfect.
Is that the ending of that film? The ending's died of the flu, right?
Bacteria,
yeah.
I mean, it's not great, I must admit, but it's the fear in the eyes of Tom Cruise, you know, and it's him trying to be, you know, it's because Spielberg is a director who deals with the subject of fatherhood a lot in his movies, and whether it be Close Encounters, whether it be Hook. And,
Hook's a great film. I'll give him that. Hook was good.
I remember I bought an Empire magazine. It's for the issues from years and years ago.
Right.
And it was basically like a whole an issue dedicated spin-off just to Spielberg.
Yeah.
And it was going through his movies and stuff, and Hook is mentioned in it. But there's so many things about Hook that no one liked because it was a bit of a box office failure for him.
Really?
Compared to other movies.
Dustin Hoffman's.
Yeah, plays Captain Hook. Fantastic role. And but I mean, obviously, people may not like Hook because it really does, you know, it's not officially the Peter Pan story. It's a sort of like an updated version of it.
It's a Peter Pan went and grew up, isn't it?
Yeah, they've changed it, and but I just love.
I like the kid who turns to a cannonball and rolls down things. He's fun.
Oh, what's his name?
Rufio as well. Rufio.
Yeah, I got to meet Rufio at a Comic Con in Wales.
No way.
The one in Wrexham. And,
Does he still have the mohawk? Big mohawk?
No. Don't worry, he still looks so young.
Yeah.
And I got him to sign my video tape of it, and he was lovely, and Spielberg went on to do. You know, he is very much known as more of a drama man these days. He's gone. You know, in the 80s he did, you know, Empire of the Sun, Colour Purple. And then he went on to do. I mean, obviously his war movies in the 90s.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, Schindler's List is. You know,
Schindler's List is a great film.
It's an incredible movie.
Yeah.
And, I still tear up in.
Is it Ray Fiennes, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much does it make you hate that man?
You know, that was Ray Fiennes before he became Ray Fiennes, the actor. You know, he was quite unknown at the time.
Yeah.
I think he had one other film out at the time, which was Quiz Show, I think it was called, and he was just Amron Goth, I think his name was, or something like that. And it was just that was like a horror character in many ways. The movie is like a horror film.
There's that scene where he's just sat on the balcony just sniping.
Yeah.
And it's just you watching it, and you're like, because it's like historical, isn't it? You're like, oh wow, this is heavy.
He was an utter psychopath, and at the end of the film, that obviously shows you him being hanged, and you think to yourself, that's not enough for what you did.
Yeah.
And Spielberg has always, you know, taken on certain subjects. Amistad, which is about slavery. And then he went on to do a movie called AI, which again is very interesting. It was meant to be a Stanley Kubrick film originally, but he passed away by this time. But I think Spielberg used he did about so many pages of the script, and Spielberg then took it on and finished off.
Oh wow!
Again, not a great movie overall, but an interesting piece.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of these films you'll talk about. I've not seen if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
I've seen the war films. I've seen Jaws. Close Encounters never watched. It
wasn't Netflix.
Yeah, like a lot of films I always mean to watch, but then I just go, I'm just going to watch this John Carpenter's film instead.
I can't blame you for that. But,
it's one of them for me, like Spielberg. And I don't know if this is me trying to be edgy, but I'm like, it's too mainstream for me.
No,
a lot of his films are the same, I think.
Yeah,
they feel the same.
I think if you sort of, like I say, Spielberg has changed his way of directing. Like I say, when Ready Player One came out,
I like that. I watched that. I thought it was pretty cool.
I enjoyed it also. I think everyone was buzzing for it at the time because they thought Spielberg's back. He's back to doing that, E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom.
Crystal Skull.
Awful
film. I went to the cinema to watch that and I was very sad.
I think it's a great, not a great movie, sorry, but I think it's definitely got some very good moments in it. I was never expecting it to be.
There's aliens in it, Rob.
Well, that's okay because.
There's not.
No, it is.
There's not, Rob.
Because in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Ark of the Covenant is, I don't know about anyone else, but I've never seen the Ark of the Covenant before. Is the Ark of the Covenant real? Who knows? Let's not get too religious here.
But, I was going to say you barked up the wrong tree.
But like I say, the Last Crusade, the Knights Templar.
I just like the melting Nazis. That was fun.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the next one, they're like, and Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf's not cool enough to be Harrison Ford's son.
I must admit, Shia LaBeouf, I've always had an on-and-off friendship with him.
Close or?
Well, no. On and off, sort of like relationship with his characters.
Yes.
And him as a human being, I think he tries too hard in his films, and I think it shows in his roles. But he will do movies. I generally did enjoy Transformers and the first one. And Dark of the Moon, actually, was quite good.
I've never seen any Transformer film.
Do you know what I mean?
I like the cartoon when I was a
Revenge
kid.
of the Fallen is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the Mark Wahlberg Age of Extinction last night. I've never seen last night.
No.
But Age of Extinction, no. But Revenge of the Fallen, no. But Dark of the Moon is interesting. And Transformers is great fun. I think Isaac could enjoy it.
Okay.
I plan to show William one day, and I hope, he gets that might be his big movie growing up.
His
Who
thing.
knows?
Isaac's was Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
which is fun.
That's strange, isn't it? Because that's an older film. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So it's great to see that's come across well to someone his age. But Spielberg has always been I get what you say about him being, some of his films do feel the same. I get that because I'm trying to think now of a film that's really, really different to everything he's made. Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List really does,
Yeah.
The Colour Purple was his real first.
That won an Oscar, The Colour of Purple, yeah?
It did. I don't know what Oscar it was, though. I'm not.
What's that about, Colour of Purple?
It's about slavery. It's about,
okay.
Whoopi Goldberg is. I'm trying to remember now. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Is that the one with Xavier Spencer? Is she in that?
No, you're thinking of. Is that The Help?
Yeah, she won an Oscar for that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that film, yeah.
And it's got Oprah Winfrey in it, and it's got Danny Glover. It's a very harsh movie. It's very harsh on the senses because there's a lot of beatings in it.
So is it like 10 Years a Slave? Because that's quite heavy. With
very much the same time period.
Yeah.
And but it's a horrible movie to watch, but a very important film.
Yeah.
The subject is very important, and it takes it. It teaches you about what they had to go through during those times, and it's horrific and it's a hard watch. But it showed you a different side of Spielberg, and I think people enjoyed that. But of course, there's always been the rumour is that he was the man who directed Poltergeist.
Well, yeah, Toby Hooper was just sort of the face, wasn't he?
Yeah, there was troubles on the set.
Yeah.
And, I don't think, I think they tried to work together, but people always say, when you watch, Poltergeist, you see classic Spielberg scenes.
Yes,
sort of thing.
yeah.
But like I say, Jaws is, I think I've read someone said to me once, I can't remember when it was, I think this person was drunk, but I took on board what he said. He said to me, Rob, Jaws is life.
Jaws is life.
And I was like, I don't know what that means, but I'm willing to find out.
I feel like we need to put out a T-shirt.
Yeah. I think, who was it? I don't want to say who it was, but I'm sure someone said it was a love story once.
Okay.
And again, I don't really get that interpretation watching it myself, but I want to watch it and feel that.
The shark loves people.
I don't know. It's like, I really want to, I know in the book, like Brody. That's a totally different thing. Brody, Richard Dreyfuss in the book sleeps with Roy Schneider's wife.
Really?
Book, but obviously it's not in the film. But that makes me think, God,
a love triangle.
Yeah, it's just whilst trying to catch a shark. But Jaws is, it's one of my favourite films of all time.
It'll always be one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
and Close Encounters I really do enjoy.
Is that about aliens? I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a bit more. It's not the alien film like you would expect. Like it's more deeper than that.
Okay.
And you've got and E.T. of course. It's that again. That's it's very 50-50 for a lot of people. I do love it, and I've always preferred Mac and Me personally.
I've seen you say this before, Mac.
Yeah.
The alien looks funny.
The movie is technically ridiculous to everyone, but I
Okay.
watched it at a certain age, and
It's just stuck with you.
yeah, and I watched it a couple of years ago, and I still enjoyed it. I still got out of it what I did as a kid.
That's like me in the film Bugsy Malone, the kid one where they fire pies at each
it's
other.
one of my wife's favourite films.
That's one of my.
Yeah,
I
she
love
loves
that
it,
film
yeah.
so much.
I watched that properly, not all of it, but it was on. It was Christmas.
Okay.
And, it was on BBC Two, I think, on one of the Christmas mornings. And I just sat there with, I think my wife was doing something, and I was just watching it. And there was a scene where, I think there's one of the kids in a barber shop, and he's getting a shave.
And the pie.
But these guys come in with these Uzis. I thought, hang on, where's this going?
Tommy guns, aren't they? Like Tom Pie, Tommy
They
guns.
started firing. I thought, Jesus, this is terrible. You can't show this to the kids. And then suddenly I saw the pie thing. I thought, that's such a great idea.
Yeah.
Such a great idea.
Yeah, so great choice for your number 3.
Well, it's like I say, it's an obvious choice, I think, because I think he's in a lot of people's lists.
Yeah.
But I think
Normally he's number 1 though, you'll find. Like 1, 2.
yeah, I think
I like that he's dead centre for you.
he's always been, like I say, if you watch films of his from the 2000 era to now,
Yeah.
they're a lot different to the films he made in the 80s and
Yeah.
early 90s. He has become a different director. He's hungry still, but to a different degree. He's not. He's very much exploring topics and characters that you wouldn't expect him to do back in the day. So I find him. I still find him interesting. To this day, and he's brought me some great memories. To me, Spielberg sort of made me dream. That's the best way to sort of say it. His films were very dream-like. He had a lot of involvement in the Goonies.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of involvement in Back to the Future. But he, a Spielberg film when you see it, especially in the 80s, it's got a stamp on it.
Okay.
And Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, some of my favourite films of all time. I love those movies. And he's just always done it for me. But sometimes, like I say, have you seen the film Munich?
No. Tell a lie. A very long time ago, when this was still a thing, my parents brought a copy of Munich from a market.
Okay.
And we started watching it, and we got to the last 45 minutes, and the film just cut off to a black screen. So I've never bothered trying to watch it. But that's a true story, right, Munich?
Yeah, I think it was 1972 Olympics.
Yeah.
When there was an attack on some athletes, and basically the movie's about revenge. It's about coping with how you sort of deal paranoia, how you deal with it's a very tricky film because it's some of the scenes in the movie are just incredible, and it's a complicated film.
Is that Spielberg?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a complicated topic. Like Amistad, again, that's another complicated topic. Very much going into the same sort of story of The Colour Purple about slavery, and it's about things that you probably don't want to see, but you should see because they're important.
Yeah, historical.
Yeah, and I think at times, like say, he'll throw in Empire of the Sun again with the young Christine Bale.
I don't think I've ever watched that.
It's like I say again, it's not for everyone. It's probably a film I would not suggest for you to watch because it's not a film I think you would enjoy.
Yeah,
but I watched it quite early, and I sort of my father is very much into history, so I've always been taught to appreciate history and to sort of really try and watch it for what it is and try and understand it and take what you can from it. And Spielberg has always been like that with his historical films.
Right.
So that's why I'd say it's my number 3. Because he's done a lot that's affected me in the past. That's made me understand things better.
My number 3, Rob.
Very serious.
I'm very serious about this because I feel like this man should have won an Oscar by now. Or he should just be given an Oscar.
I know who it is.
Just mainly because he's done that much and he just doesn't get the recognition he deserves, I think, from the Academy.
Correct.
It's Mr. John Carpenter.
Yes.
And now he was my number 1 until about 2 days ago because I sat back.
That's a big slip.
Yeah, I sat back and my wife said to me that I speak about 2 other directors a lot more than Carpenter. And when I go through Carpenter's filmography, there's films I like, but I don't love. And there's a few films that I'll probably get a lot of... There's one especially that I'm not really a fan of, which is The Prince of Darkness.
You're not a fan of it?
I've watched that film 3 times. First time, I was like, it's an all right film, that. The second time, I was like, yeah. And then the third time, I was like, oh no, this is pretty shit.
Oh no, I'm a big Prince of Darkness fan. I remember when I only saw it about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I watched it and I was off work for a day, and I thought, you know what, I've got Prince of Darkness on. I was looking at me stack of DVDs. I thought, I've never seen this film. I thought, I need to watch it. I'm a Carpenter fan.
Sorry, the S bomb I just dropped a bit harsh. I like it, but I don't like. For me, my 1 and 2, I don't think there's a film that they've made where I'm like, oh, it's a bit cack that.
Yeah.
But Carpenter's got, say, I like They Live. It's not a bad film. I think that it leaves a lot to be desired, though.
I think I've always believed that they could carry on They Live.
Exactly.
With the TV series.
Yes, I think a lot of John Carpenter's films could do with a bit more exploring. That's I'm a fan of, and Tom, who comes to the show, is my friend.
Yes.
He's also a big fan of Ghosts of Mars.
Oh yeah.
I like Ghosts of Mars.
I got the Blu-ray recently, and I've watched it once.
Yeah.
And I didn't love it, but I knew it was a film of its time.
Exactly.
Carpenter. He was, because at the time, obviously, he was making films a certain way, not like he was back in the day.
Yeah.
But it was more of a modern era John Carpenter film. And but that film, even though it's not the best, it's still better than most films.
Well, this is what I mean. Like, I looked at Carpenter's films, and I would say there's 3 or 4 films where I'm like, they're amazing. But then all the others I'm like, I like.
Which are the like ones?
Pretty much everything.
Well, no, actually, what are the 3? Was it 3 or 4 best ones?
Well, obviously, one of my favourite films of all time is The Thing. The Thing, everything about The Thing is perfect in my eyes. Then the second one's Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah. Mainly because I think that's the perfect blend of horror, comedy, and action.
Yeah, it's everything, isn't it?
And ridiculousness.
It's got romance in it.
Well, exactly,
but
yeah.
It's ridiculous romance.
Yeah, but like the 3 storms.
Yeah.
I don't even want a backstory on them because it's ridiculous.
I think they sort of discuss it more in the comic books and things like that.
Well, well, maybe we could do it like and then Halloween, obviously. Like, I don't think Halloween's a perfect film. I think there's a lot of slasher films that are better, and everyone cites Halloween being the grandfather of the slasher genre. But you've got Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a lot of films I'll speak about in a second with my number 2 and 1 that came before Halloween. And I think John Carpenter gets too much love for that film.
Yeah, and I will agree with you because I mean Halloween is a very good film.
Yeah. It's an amazing film.
Well, I remember I was doing film studies, and we had to research and discuss 3 movies. And 3 films that changed the horror genre, and one was Psycho, one was Halloween, and one was Scream.
See, I don't agree with that. I don't think Halloween changed the horror genre.
No, I mean, because you're right. Because at the time, about 5 years prior, you already had Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You had
Black Christmas.
Yeah, you had Wes Craven coming up. Black Christmas.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of the, I don't want to say the names of the films because it's going to spoil the list going forward, but I know what you mean. But, but Halloween for me is not, Chad and I will both agree that we think Halloween 3
is the best
Season of the Witch, that is the best.
This is exactly why I wore this jumper, to be honest with you.
And the weird thing is, that's not even in the canon of Michael Myers.
No, well, Michael Myers appears on one TV screen in a bar, doesn't he? So it's like, and Jamie Lee Curtis is the voice on the tannoy.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But it's got the, it's a shame really, because obviously that was Carpenter's original idea, wasn't it?
An anthology.
And even though Season of the Witch is a great film, it wasn't received well at the time. Very much ahead of its time. I think they weren't ready for it. Like the Thing.
Yeah. It's like, was it you that posted into our new group on Facebook? Have a look, North Wales Cult and Horror. With Marty McFly was like, your kids are going to love this about the Thing. Was it you or Jason?
It was
Jason, yeah. And I think that's the perfect way of describing it. Do you know what I mean? Because like that film bombed hard, didn't it? The Thing
came out at the same time as E.T.
Well, and it's better than E.T. And I don't care. You can find anyone can find me on that.
E.T. at the time became the biggest selling box office film of all time.
Well,
so you can see why.
Friendly.
So you can see why basically parents were taking them to watch that. Parents didn't have time to go watch The Thing.
Yeah.
But again, it was just bad timing.
Well, there's a film I love by John Carpenter again, and I don't think people talk about it enough. Vampires with James Woods.
Yeah.
I think that film, and it's got one of the worst Baldwins in it as well, which is fun.
It's Daniel.
There you go. Yeah, one of the lesser known Baldwins. But I think that film's amazing.
Daniel Baldwin is the one of the main villains in Harley Davidson and Marlboro Man.
Oh, really?
It's nice to see that film actually getting talked about in any aspect. You should watch it now. But actually that was on Netflix at one point. I'm gonna have to look into that. But no, you're right. I think Vampires is very underrated. I think again, no one really wanted a Carpenter film at that time. I don't think
everyone needs a Carpenter film.
They do, but I don't think Hollywood I don't think there was any call for it.
Yeah.
Like, I think vampire movies had long been gone. In the 90s, you had Bram Stoker's Dracula, you had Interview the Vampire, and From Dusk Till Dawn. I think From Dusk Till Dawn sort of I think that sort of peaked the genre for a while, and no one else cared about anything after that until probably Twilight. And even then, that's not best discussed. Even though I'm not a massive hater of this film.
Yeah, I funny enough you mentioned
They're an easy watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like my wife was like, because I've always been like, no, but she was like, come on, watch them for me. And we watched them all. I was like, oh, they're not as bad as people make out. Now, don't get me wrong, vampires sparkling in sunlight's a bit of a weird take.
Yeah, it's very like it's teen romance. It hasn't got like a. To be fair, I was a massive fan of Breaking Dawn Part 2. I thought it was really good. I love the end scene, the fight scene at the end. I think it's really well done. When Michael Sheen has his father's head. What was his name? I can't remember. Blonde hair.
Yeah.
That scene, I thought everyone was on. Everyone's reaction shots were great. Rami Malek was in that film.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, but quite unknown at the time. But no, like I say, Vampires by John Carpenter is a great discussion.
It's an amazing. I think that should be up there with like Blade and things like that. Good vampire films.
I don't know what it's James Woods being. Fucking James Woods.
Yeah, beast in it, isn't he? He's because he runs this vampire killing gang, doesn't he? And the bit in the motel where that one vampire kills the whole gang.
Thomas Ian Griffith. He's the main villain from Crikey 3.
Yeah, and I just think, what I'm trying to say is I don't think John Carpenter has ever made a bad film. And even up to The Ward, I think that's a good film.
I've got it on my collection, but I still haven't got around to it.
But I feel like he hasn't got enough great films. He's got all of his filmography is good, and that's why he's in the middle for me. Again, because I can't get about everyone says The Prince of Darkness is an amazing film, but I just think it's confusing.
Okay.
And maybe I'm not watching it enough. Maybe I'm but
it's just the way you view it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
There's never sort of wrong or right answers when it comes to. I'm sure you'll spit on anyone who likes Back to the Future, but
no, because I've said this before. I like the fans. I just think the films are garbage.
You like number 3 a little bit.
I like number 3 in the same way I like Standing on Lego, but the pain thrills me. Do you know what I mean?
Thrill me.
Although, funny enough, Tom again, he asked me the other day, because you hate...
Tom on here, really?
Yeah, because you dislike Back to the Future. What's your favourite Robert Zemeckis film? And I didn't realise he did Castaway.
Yes.
So he gets points for doing Castaway, because Castaway is the bomb,
Are you pretty much a Robert?
Did he do? Oh God! He gets okay. Robert Zemeckis might be okay.
Yeah.
I'll take back everything I've said.
Back on the table.
Yeah. I'll take that back because Who Framed Roger Rabbit might be one of the best kids films ever
I
made.
think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
that film got an honorary Oscar because of the groundbreaking animation and live action. And again, Spielberg was heavily involved. In that movie.
Really?
I think Spielberg once did say it's one of his proudest things that he's ever worked on because he knew it was breaking the mold.
Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins. Yeah, I mean, people as much as Bob Hoskins is great for Long Good Friday, Mona Lisa, and all these great sort of hardman movies back in the 80s and 70s. He was still great in he was perfect casting for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And,
Unleashed is a good film with him.
Yes, with Jet Li movie. Yeah. I love how we go home. I love how we've talked about John Carpenter and somehow got onto the topic of
Bob Hoskins.
And Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, but that's my number 3. We'll go on to your number 2 because people understand why later.
My number 2 is a director that does something in movies that I think is very difficult to do to this day, and he's worked from the early 70s, which is Martin Scorsese.
Of course,
because Scorsese started off obviously he started off. People started to pay attention to him when he made Mean Streets in 1972.
That's the one with Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Never watched that.
No, I mean it's a very of its time. There's very low budget, but very very good.
Yeah.
Harvey Keitel is sort of the main actor in it.
Winston Wolfe.
Yes. Well, so much work was Harvey Keitel, and Scorsese had done a lot more than I think people realise. And then obviously came Taxi Driver, which won the Palme d'Or. And in my opinion, if you win the Palme d'Or, then it's a great movie because Palme d'Ors only go to great films. Okay. I think it's one of the best.
Not a fan of Taxi Driver.
Oh really?
My friend Adam, he's always says to me Taxi Driver's one of the best films, and I watched it, and it's just about a weird fella, isn't it?
Well, have you seen The Joker?
Yeah, no, the one with Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah,
No, not
it's
watched
got
it.
a very similar vibe to
Yeah,
it.
I could never get behind the Taxi Driver because I was going to watch it. Obviously, that was one of your shows, wasn't it? Before
It was, yeah,
the
before COVID
pandemic,
kicked in.
and I was going to give it another chance. I was going to watch it on the big screen. Maybe I'd like it.
I think the theatre is the perfect place to show a film like Taxi Driver because it's got like again they should have this comment that I keep on mentioning. It should have its own genre, Under the Skin. That's what it is. It's a very dirty movie, you know, and like I say, it's very grimy. And in the streets of New York, you can taste them, you can smell them, you feel them.
Yeah.
But then he went on to make obviously Raging Bull.
Good film.
He did Cape Fear, which I think is one of
great film.
The movie overall I don't love, but I do love.
That's a remake as well.
I do love Max Caddy because originally it was meant to be. Spielberg was meant to be making.
He's got a lot of fingers and a lot of pie. Spielberg, hasn't he?
You know, he's just a trustworthy guy basically. And Spielberg was meant to be directing Cape Fear, but he passed it to Scorsese instead. Okay. And he said, "I think you'll do more with this than I will."
I think that was the right choice.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not a film you would necessarily compare with any of the Scorsese film, you know.
Right.
But he made other films as well called. Have you seen After Hours with Griffin Dunn from American Wolf in London?
Maybe it sounds familiar.
It's got Cheech and Chong in it as well.
No. Cheech and Chong, no.
They're not in it for long, but they're in it. But it's a movie about that. After Hours is such a great movie. It's basically about one guy, a bit of a quiet person, bit of a loner, and somehow he gets involved in basically one evening's chaos in New York, and he goes from like scene to scene, and it's all just going chaos for him basically. And he's like, he wants to try and become more out there and socialize, and by doing so his life ends up going pretty weird in one night. And that's a film again you wouldn't expect Scorsese to make. Same like with The King of Comedy, that's another great film, very Joker sort of thing, which De Niro obviously did star in as well. And then he's obviously known for his gangster films. Goodfellas.
I love Goodfellas.
Casino is like it's like 100 miles per hour.
That film still, again, it gets under my skin because of the end scene with the bat with Joe Pesci and his brother. That scene is harrowing to watch. Yeah, it's just horrible to watch. Obviously, because I've got a brother and I couldn't imagine having to sit there and watch my brother being beaten with a bat.
And then you're sort of knowing that you're going to get the same treatment about 5 minutes later. It's but what I love about Scorsese is that he's still a director who's consistent to this day.
Did you watch The Irishman?
I did.
Good?
I loved it.
Okay. No, I'm not watching it. Because again, it's one of those films, it's 3 hours, is it? 3.5 hours?
Yeah, on Netflix you can get away with it more. But The Irishman was definitely a movie that I loved.
Right.
Maybe, I mean, people I think probably sat there and thought, well, everyone's going to love it because it's Scorsese, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in one movie. Yeah. But really, what I think is... that movie really should have been made many years ago, but it's been made now, and it generally was a great film. And but a big fan that you and I are of Wolf of Wall Street.
I always forget he did that.
Yeah. I didn't think it because of the
because Caprio should got the Oscar for that, right? Correct. Instead of Revenant, because Revenant is not a good film. I'm going to say that now.
I mean, it's well made, but nothing more.
Yeah, Caprio definitely should have got
acted and things like that. But the overall,
they basically put glitter on a turd. That's the best way to describe The Revenant.
That's the only way.
You throw glitter at a turd, makes the film okay.
That's the tagline of The Revenant. Basically.
Yeah.
But like I say, he's done a lot of other... A bit like Spielberg, he's gone on to do topics of movies that you would not expect of him. He did The Age of Innocence, which is a bit more of a melodrama. He did... he's got a bit of like... He's very much connected to religion. So he's done The Last Temptation of Christ.
Okay.
With Willem Dafoe, which is about Jesus. He's done Kundun, which is about the Dalai Lama. He's done a film called Silence, which is about priests, which was a recent movie made with Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, and Liam Neeson. A great movie. Again, not a film for everyone. It's just, it's just Scorsese will literally, he's given a blank check, I think, by a lot of studios to make the films he wants to make.
Right.
And the passion project he made in the early 2000s, Gangs of New York,
I always forget him. That's a classic film. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis and that.
Oh, it's one of his greatest roles. But it's a film that I have trouble with, and I struggle with sometimes. But overall, it's a great. It's there to be seen. It's a a very fictional storytelling movie that is part documentary and historical. It's Scorsese love letter to New York.
Yeah,
so it's basically his
stomping ground,
his home away from home. And his movies have always sort of like hovered around that area, and I just think he's always championed cinema, and that is an important thing. If you're in a position to do great things in Hollywood and in the film industry, and so he does a lot in preserving movies. He has a lot to do with preservation of films, old films, making sure they're remastered, looked after, and seen by people. He has a lot to do with the Criterion Collection, which is
oh really?
a label of physical media.
They release a lot of good stuff.
They do. I mean, it's films again that is not, I would say, mainstream, but films for the love of cinema.
Yeah.
And Scorsese will always, and I love that about him. He's in a position to, and he uses it very well to, talk and discuss. He's a big fan of Midsommar. Big fan of Ari Aster. He's always talking. He watched Hereditary and he watched Midsommar, and he says, that man understands it.
Yeah.
He gets it, and it's good that someone like him will. We'll talk about him because fans that might think Hereditary is not a film they would enjoy, they will watch it because I think Scorsese says to.
Yeah,
and people will listen, and that's power, and that's what I think is important in Hollywood. If you have that that role and you can inspire, then do it.
What's the Spider-Man saying? With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he uses it to the max. I mean, even when Bong Joon-ho won the Oscar last year for Parasite.
Parasite.
It was like his
great film.
It won Best Director, and it was sort of really like the movie. His acceptance speech sort of became like It ended up being like him just praising Scorsese, and everyone stood up for Scorsese during his speech, because he made them stand up. Not made them. Everyone knows when you hear Scorsese's name, you stand up and clap because you're so happy to have lived in a generation that you've got to see his movies, and he's so respected and he's so well loved, and rightly so because he has made very important movies.
He's getting on a bit now, though, isn't he? He's quite old.
He's 77. Maybe.
Oh, I thought he was older than that. He's still got a good few movies in him then. I reckon he's got 2 or 3.
I think he's younger than De Niro.
Oh, really?
I think. I'm not 100% sure. Or they're the same age. But Scorsese, like I say, he's not stopping. He carries going.
Yeah.
He's got another film being made soon called The Killers of the Flower Moon, which is with De Niro and DiCaprio. And Jesse Plemons. Do you know Jesse Plemons?
No.
He's, you seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
He's the redhead lad. I can't remember his name in Breaking Bad. But he's the one that Jesse kills at the end.
Right.
He's been tipped for big things in the future. He's in The Irishman as well. And he's in... I think DiCaprio's doing the main role, but now he's taking a step back, so Jesse Plemons can take over the role.
Okay.
But again, it's Scorsese going, not stopping. He should be relaxing and retiring, but he's not. He loves film and he wants to carry on making it.
That's nice.
And the fact is, he's still making quality movies. Is a shock because not a lot of directors, even my favourite director that I'm going to mention at number 1, in my opinion, is not making great films. I mean, he's not made a film for a long time, but still.
Yeah, since 2014, is it?
I think so, yeah. But like I say, Scorsese is still bringing out classics.
Definitely.
Films that, Wolf of Wall Street is a classic for me.
Yeah.
Of the modern era. And The Irishman is going to be, also, I believe.
The thing with Scorsese films is they get shown in film schools.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Yeah, he taught a lot. I mean, he taught Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
I think it was UCLA, and he had lots. I think he had a lot to do with Spielberg and De Palma and Coppola. So there was a lot going on in regards to what they. Like I say, he is very. A lot of people are thankful to him for their careers because he has taught them so much and inspired. And that's what I would say Scorsese is most important about. He inspires people.
Yeah. Definitely. Oh, that's a great... You know what, mate? You brought back a lot of feelings for me for Scorsese.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of, when I was about 14, I'd really got into The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And The Sopranos got me into, like mafia films, basically. And obviously...
Without Casino and Goodfellas, you wouldn't get... Sopranos wouldn't exist because the movies were made in that certain sort of way. But you're number 2.
Is this person for some reason, because when I sit back and think about it, he should have been in my list straight away. I've spoke about him before on the show quite a lot, and my wife told me I had to put him in because I don't stop speaking about him, apparently. It's Dario Argento.
Yeah.
Obviously he made Suspiria, Inferno, The Bird in the Crystal Plumage.
Was that his first film?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was. And he's made so many other films. Again, from when we talked about John Carpenter, films like the Giallo films, they are the first slasher films.
They were, because that's a genre, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically they were drama thrillers around murder, but they are the heart of a slasher film to me. And yeah, just like all the Italians back in, like Mario Bava, he made The Bay of Blood, which might actually be the first ever slasher film.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the 60s that came out.
Yeah.
And again, for me, it comes to the fact that like Halloween gets too much praise for being the first slasher film when the slasher genre really started in the 60s with Italian films.
Right.
And that's why Halloween doesn't get a lot of love from me. Like, I think it's an amazing film. I think it done a lot for 80s slasher.
Yeah, because Halloween was mainstream, wasn't it?
Exactly,
and nobody
yeah.
was really looking at the... to be fair, I don't know a lot about Italian cinema, especially the horror genre in that country, but I know it's very deep-rooted in some of, like... And sort of inspired a lot of directors to make what they make now because of those movies.
Yeah. Like Dario Argento, again, on the previous podcast I've mentioned this, he's a lovely fella. I met him on the way to the toilet because I forgot to get my ticket.
The
HorrorCon, yeah. Jason got a signature for me. Yeah, he was a lovely guy. And I've said a lot about him on these previous podcasts.
I'm a big fan of Suspiria.
Suspiria is definitely up there for me. I love Suspiria so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be honest with you, I can't say much more than I haven't already said, but I had to put him in my list.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, what he did was he's changed, like I say, a lot of the genre of what the type of horror films he made.
Yeah. What's your number one then, Rob?
Right. Well, from many podcasts we've spoken about in the past, we've obviously spoken about it on this podcast. My number one is John Carpenter.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The man. He, you know, I would say it's weird because I've been a massive film fan for all these years, and Carpenter really never sort of came into my life until probably say mid 2000s. Even though I watched Picture of China way before that, and I've seen The Thing, Escape from New York. But I never really sat down and properly watched his films from a film fan point of view. I watched them just back in the day, just because I had them, and I was a big fan of those movies at the time, but not like I am now. And I think over the years I've just looked at him as a different sort of kind of beast in the industry, because he's always been the man who's basically done but he's always done that to the system. He's never been he's never followed the Hollywood mainstream line. He's never protocol. That's the right word. Yeah, he's never gone that way. He's always done it by his book, and I've always admired him for that, because not a lot of directors can come out and make the movies that he's made and do what he's done. For me, he's become a massive influential person for people over the years in not just movies but effects and especially music. He composed all his own films.
You've seen him live, right?
I saw him live and he was great. Like I say, it's like watching a proper rock concert, and this is just a man just playing themes from his movies. There's no vocals involved. It's just music, synth, and he's just always like I say, over the last 10 years, I've been able to appreciate him more than ever, and because of that, I love him. And
he's like a fine wine, isn't he? He gets better with age.
Well, he's just like I say. I mean, again, it was going back to that what Jason sent you about Back to the Future. You guys aren't ready for it, but your kids are going to love it. I think I'm one of the kids that's gone on to love it. I wasn't probably watching John Carpenter how I watch him now back then.
Yeah.
And when I do now, I just get so much more from it. And he's got so many films that I admire. We were talking about like Escape from New York. I'm a massive fan of that. I'm a big fan of the sequel.
LA. I like the surfing bit. That's my favourite bit. Yeah.
Fonda, it's a silly film, and yes, there's CGI, and it's not great CGI.
No.
Escape from LA, but to me, CGI, if it's bad or it's good. Obviously, it's better if it's good, but I'm not fussed if it isn't great.
Yeah.
Because I sort of just, it's...
Gives you that little chuckle, doesn't it, in the middle of the film?
At the end of the day, you have to respect that not all movies cannot look like a Spielberg film or a Michael Bay movie. You have to understand that these...
People like Carpenter don't get the budget. That's the thing.
Exactly. So they've got to make do with what they've got. Even Kurt Russell, as big as an actor as he was, he wasn't a big star, I'd say, in the mid-90s. I think it was more the 80s and the early 90s. And he's sort of come back into, fold now. I think he was making a lot of, great films again. But, I don't think there was a massive call for Escape from LA.
No.
So,
Bruce Campbell does a cameo in that, doesn't he? As a surgeon.
Yeah, he does. And Robert Carradine from Rent to the Nurse has got a little scene in it as well. And, it's just, again, like talking about vampires, it's great talking about vampires because I'm, like yourself, a big fan of it. And it's not really discussed enough because it's not like the films he made, it's not like, Assault of Precinct 13.
Which is another great film.
Another great movie. It's not like Halloween. It's not like The Thing. It's, it's his own, Vampires is his own film. And it's Carpenter sort of taken on like, his movies felt different in the later years of his career. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's still going, and looks like hopefully going to be getting a new
apparently
film.
so. He wants to do a comeback, doesn't he?
He wants to do it again. I'd be interested to see. I think he will get. I think Blumhouse will be the boys behind it. I think they'll. And the good thing about that is they'll give him a good budget as well.
Yes.
But I think Carpenter will also understand. I think he's had a bit of a ropey time with CGI. I don't think he's excited to go back to that. I think he'd be a bit more practical effects, and because practical effects is so appreciated now, I think they will do more. They will definitely do more to sort of, I think in a way they'll just give them like a bit of a blank check.
Yeah.
And say, make the film you want to make. If you've got an idea, run with it. Yeah. Because your name will sell it.
Yeah, definitely. Every horror fan will watch that film just because Carpenter's done it.
Yeah, he's paid his dues, and he deserves all the praise. And though he never got it back then, he's getting it now, and I think he understands, and I think he really appreciates it as well. He looks like he's enjoying himself more than ever.
Actually, I think he deserves like a Lifetime Award Oscar, like for what he's done. I feel like they should give him an Oscar for it.
You know what they should, yeah, because like I say, I mean, Scorsese, again, going back to him, again, someone who champions other directors. He is a big Carpenter fan.
Oh, really? That's cool.
He's always said, the films he makes are perfect for what they, for the audience he sort of aims them at. And that's what I love about him. He knows his audience. He has got, because going back to Wes Craven, so I don't really like how they call John Carpenter the horror master.
Okay.
I'm not, though he's made great horror films, but in my opinion, that belongs to Wes Craven.
Oh, you said that, yeah.
I think he is the horror master, personally, for myself, because he's my favourite horror director, and I think he's made, he's not just made one genre, I think he's made like three, Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream, three genre-defining movies.
I mean, if you go for The Serpent and the Rainbow as well.
Yes, Voodoos.
Yeah.
But no, John Carpenter, like I say, he just, he's a hands-on man, and his score for Halloween 3 is tip-top, the movie feels like a John Carpenter film. Yeah. It's made by one of his good friends, Tommy D. Wallace.
Who made The Mask, right, for the first Halloween? Tommy D. Wallace. He directed the It miniseries as well, didn't he? Yeah.
He also did the Tommyknockers, I believe, as well.
Oh, that wasn't great. No, bad CGI in that.
TV with Jimmy Smith. And but no, Carpenter is always, he's someone that I'm excited for people like my son. Hopefully, our boys will become horror fans and film fans like ourselves. And I'm hoping that, in years to come, his movies will speak to them like they speak to us and inspire us and to create. Because, like I say, he's not just a director. He's much more than that. And, he has a lot to do with the writings of his films and his creation of characters.
Yeah.
Like I say, Michael Myers, obviously, even though, again, Chad and I have discussed we're not massive Halloween fans, we do enjoy it. We appreciate everything that is done for the genre. But we think he's bigger than that. We think there's other films out there that probably deserve the praise more because Halloween came sort of at the right time. And that's no disrespect to John Carpenter and anyone who loves that film. It's just we think that's how we think. And to put it
fight, isn't it?
To put it bluntly. But again, like I say, Carpenter has created characters. Snake Plissken, RJ McCready,
Childs,
Jack Burton, Childs.
Dr. Loomis.
Dr. Loomis. What's Roddy Piper's character again in?
Nada.
I never remember that name because it's such an odd name. But yeah, again, characters like that. He is much more than just one job in a film. He does so much more.
He brought the car Christine to life.
Yes.
The Plymouth Fury, 1967 and 69.
I think so. Yeah.
Something like
stunning car.
Great car. You can actually buy those cars from that film. One was up for sale.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's like 6 left from the actual film.
You would never want to touch it. You just want to probably just spend time with it.
Yeah.
Touch it.
Do weird things in the back of it.
That's what exactly I would do.
Like a Sudoku, nothing like that.
Never so well. But no, I just, Carpenter, like I say, anyone who knows me will always know that he is always my number one. And like I say, Chad obviously touched upon some great topics before. Chad was basically speaking for me in a way, which is great because, like I say, I love hearing about people talk about, someone. I love hearing people talk about something that I love when it comes to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like people talking about things I don't love because it's interesting to see their side of things. But when it comes to someone like Carpenter, I love hearing people's opinions and thoughts on what he's done. And like I say, Chad really did nail it on the nail of the coffin.
Oh, thank you very much, Rob.
So to speak, about how I feel about Carpenter, and that's why he is one of the best, and for me personally, is the greatest. So on that note, Chad, number one.
My number one is the Godfather of Gore himself, Lucio Fulci. Now, Lucio Fulci is, again, the master of gore, mainly because I just love his films. When I watch him, they're some of the only films that make me wince. Like, again, Zombie Flesh Eaters with the eye where it's dragged to the door, the bit in The Beyond where the spider bites the eye. Just his effects in general, and he was making movies way before his gore days. Like, he was doing westerns, which were really cool. Like, I've watched a couple of them. They're fun. I think he did them in like the 50s. So he was around for a while. I think he died in 96. He's just an all around for me. His films are what I look for in a horror film.
He's definitely, I mean, to be fair, I've not watched many of his films. I think I've watched House by the Cemetery, Manhattan Baby,
New York Ripper. Yeah. Which, again, that film, like, gets under your skin, doesn't it? Yeah. Kind of thing, like the weird duck voice on the phone. And...
It's that sort of, like, feeling of New York. It's basically showing New York at its worst.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing is like what Scorsese sort of did in his films. But, you know, he takes this to a new level.
Yeah.
And it shows you the real griminess, like, and creepiness of the area. And he's definitely a director that I have not personally experienced much films of, but because Chad has for quite a while talked about him in conversation. Certainly a genre and a director I want to explore more.
But again, films like Don't Torture a Duckling, or is it Who Would Torture a Duckling? Anyway, that's very much like a giallo film in itself again, and that predates Halloween. People, again, especially the Italians, like I was talking about in Dario Argento, they are the reason we have slasher films. They're the reason we have a lot of the genre film. Zombie Flesh Eaters, that was, well, he said it was a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, an unofficial sequel.
Right,
okay. That's why it starts off in New York with the zombies and stuff like that, because it's meant to be like, that's where it's kicking off. And George Romero, from what I've read, was never bothered about that. He was sort of like, yeah, it's a good film, which it is. It's a brilliant film. Ian McCulloch, lovely guy, I met him. Like his films are all around for me just great. Like, I don't think I've ever watched a Fulci film. Even, like, again, I'm a massive horror fan. I don't really watch anything else, but his westerns, I thought that it's that good line between hammy and a good film that I love.
Well, maybe he always wanted to make the horror films back in the day, but obviously sometimes you've got to do a bit of work to get to make the films that you want to make.
They said that smoking was healthy back in the 50s, so there'll be a lot of things change.
Yeah, I think back in the day, you used to see directors behind the cameras with a flag in the mouth.
Which
couldn't have been great for the equipment, but back then, you're sort of a bit more blasé to it all.
There's a cool little documentary on Amazon Prime. Fulci for Fake.
That's right. Yeah,
it's really cool. I've got a poster from the film inside my shop in town, which is really cool. Signed by the artist. But that's a good little insight and a look behind, because apparently he was a really nice guy, which is always quite cool.
Yeah, strange that when you think about the kind of films that they make, they're quite sort of like disturbing and sort of gore. To think of a nice person wanting to make that kind of film, is, again, like I say, that's to go to show how creative people want to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are just basically born to make a certain type of movie, and they do it well.
Exactly, yeah. And he's definitely, for me, like, I'll always be good. I never got to meet him, because growing up watching Fulci films took me out of, like, real life, and I just, do you know what I mean? Like, he died a year after I was born.
Right.
I'm sure it was 96. I might be wrong, but he died before I could even speak, really.
Are you the reincarnation?
I hope so. No, I could never make a film as good as him. But yeah, no, like, all around, like, Fulci for me Fulci's just great.
Yeah, he's always popped up, like I say, again, he's not a director I've sort of explored, but I've always, like, when I sort of, will look into people's collections, because, like any sort of film fan, I think you like to look at people's collections on Instagram or Twitter, and you'll always see a Fulci film in there. And sometimes, like, I know I've got Manhattan Baby on Blu-ray and things like that.
Yeah.
I've seen it once and stuff, but I want to revisit it again, and I want to see...
I just love how ridiculous some of his films are. Like, they're just like Manhattan Baby. It's about, like, something in Egypt, isn't it? It comes over and it's that ridiculous. It makes sense.
It's kind of films, things, wasn't it? Like I say, those kind of films, they were getting made today, clearly, but, for better to be made back then, to be notorious now.
Yeah.
And
if that was made now, people would just be like, eh.
Yeah, I think, like, say, back then, I think they were sort of took a bit more notice.
But again, it's like the same thing with Carpenter, like Argento, most of the Italians were like, bugger off kind of thing, we're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
Like before I was saying Mario Bava, he made Bay of Blood, and I can imagine in the 60s, that probably rustled a few feathers.
Yeah, and that's how it gets started, isn't it? Because, like I say, you have to always tip your hat off to any of the old guard, because
groundbreakers.
They're the ones who basically make the movies that Chad and I love now. Sorry, that Chad and I loved back then, but they will also give people a chance to sort of create the new generation of films because they've been inspired by the past.
Right, yeah. So that's our lists. We want to know your top 5, or even just your top 1. Really,
yeah. Please comment below. It'd be good to hear. Obviously, we know it's all subjective, and every director we listen to, and like I say, we're not here to sort of we want to hear everyone's opinions about what kind of films, directors that sort of are your favourites. But also, if you could hit subscribe, that's a big help.
And share and like,
because it does push the channel and it helps us a lot.
Also, we've got new T-shirts, which is a bit of a spoof on the last house on the left. It says something wicked, and we've got some cool prints. So if you want one, give us a message on our social media. And thank you guys. We'll see you next time.